If your stomach feels like a washing machine before a presentation, you're in the right place. Because today we're going to go over 4 different strategies that you can use to reduce your nerves so that you feel more confident before and during a presentation. Now, my name's Kyle Murtagh. I'm a public speaking coach, champion, and author. And I'm also someone who used to be terrified of public speaking too. In fact, my first ever presentation, I literally stood up, said 2 words, and sat right back down. So I know what it feels like to have that anxiety beforehand. But the 4 strategies we're going to go over have been proven. They've worked for me, they work for my clients, and I'm confident they can work for you too. So stay to the end of the video so that you get all 4, because one of these is going to hit gold for you. I promise you that. Let's get into it. Now you can remember these 4 strategies by the acronym FEAR. How good is that? So the first strategy is focus. Now I had a client who was extremely anxious before presentations, and her favorite phrase was, "What if? What if the audience turns against me? What if there's a killer question? What if I freeze? What if my hair doesn't look good?" And I just said, look, your hair will look great. That's not the problem here. The problem is that you're focusing on the future. And how many of us are guilty of this? When we have a presentation coming up, we begin to catastrophize about all the different things that could possibly go wrong in the future, don't we? About what could happen. What we need to try and do instead is we need to bring our mind from the future back into the present, into the moment we're currently living in. So how do you do that? Well, there's many different ways. You could go for a walk, talk to a friend, meditate, listen to your favorite music. Baby, 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 oh. The point is, you've got to find something that you can personally do to bring your mind more into the present moment. Thinking about the future is why you are so anxious, because the future is something that you simply can't control right now. But you can control what you do in this exact moment. Now, the second strategy is emotions. There was a football player called Kaká, and he was a very successful player. And he often played in big, high-profile, high-pressure games. And one day he was doing an interview, and the interviewer asked Kaká, before these big Champions League games, before these World Cup games, do you get nervous? Do you get anxious? And you know what Kaká said? He said, no, I don't get nervous, I don't get anxious, because I view all of those feelings I'm experiencing as me being ready. Now, Kaká was onto something here, because he was deciding how to interpret his emotions. And if you think about it, before any big occasion that you might get a little bit nervous for, we tend to have the same feelings, the same emotions coursing through our body. I mean, we often have increased heart rate, we have sweaty palms, sometimes sweaty armpits. We often have our stomach, there's butterflies swirling around there. We have all of these symptoms occurring. And what we can decide to do is we can decide to choose how we interpret them. And look, you've got a few different options to play with here. You could choose to interpret all of those symptoms as you being anxious. Now, what is the benefit of doing that? There is no benefit. It just makes everything worse, because now you're thinking, yeah, I'm really anxious, I'm really worried about this, it is going to be disastrous. Yet so many of us do it. What you could do instead is you could take option 2, which is Kaká's option. Say that you're ready. View all of those symptoms, the sweaty palms, the butterflies, the heart rate, as you being ready to go. It worked for Kaká, it works for me, I'm sure it can work for you too. And if you're very bold, what you could also do is take the third option. You could interpret those symptoms as you being excited. Because if you think about it, before something that you are looking forward to, heart rate increases. The butterflies are there. We do sweat a little. So the choice is yours in terms of how you interpret your emotions. At first, it might be anxious. That's all you can focus on. But you want to eventually promote yourself to a place where you're seeing it as you being ready. And then eventually you might get to a place where, yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this presentation. But just to be aware that you have a choice in how you interpret your emotions is very empowering. Now, the third strategy is all about your attitude. And this is truly what's going to make or break whether your presentation is a success and whether you will ever overcome your fear of speaking. Let me explain why. You see, most people have a terrible attitude when it comes to their presentations. They say things like, oh, my content's rubbish, or oh, my voice is really boring, or why would anyone want to listen to me? I don't know what I'm doing. And because their attitude is so poor, that leads to them taking zero action. Because they believe there's nothing they can do to improve, they won't bother practicing, preparing, getting feedback on their presentation. And because of that poor preparation in their actions, that leads to terrible results in the form of their presentation going really bad because no one is listening, because no one cares, because they're up there shaking like a leaf all the way through it. And those terrible results reinforce that bad attitude that they are just terrible at this and there's nothing they can do to fix it. And unfortunately, this is a cycle most people go around again and again and again. But what you've got to do is you've got to break that cycle. And you do that by changing your attitude. Now, I'm not saying that you have to announce to the world that you are a great speaker, you are phenomenal at this, and everyone is going to listen to your presentation. No, I'm not saying that. But what you should announce is that you're going to give this presentation your absolute best. Because when you go in with that positive attitude that you're going to give it your best, it means that you have to take action. You have to plan it. You have to practice. You have to get feedback because you're giving it your best. And because you take that action, you then deliver better results in the form of your presentation going well. People coming up to you afterwards and saying, that was really good. Them looking attentive all the way through. You feeling more confident when you're up there. And because you have that positive result, that then reinforces the idea in your attitude that maybe I could be a good speaker. It begins to change how you view yourself. And if you go through this again and again and again and again, before you know it, now you have a positive, consistent attitude for every presentation that you do. What we say about ourselves has a habit of becoming our reality. So be very careful about what your attitude is going into a presentation. The fourth strategy is reaction. And what we're talking about here is how you react when things go wrong. You see, if there's three certainties in life, it's this. We all pay taxes, we all die, and things go wrong in presentations. You have to prepare for the worst happening. Because a lot of anxiety is built up around the fear of what could go wrong. Like we spoke about at the start with that focus piece. But if you can prepare what your next step will be for when things do go wrong, it can help you feel more confident going into that presentation. So let's take two scenarios, two big fears that most people have. One being freezing in a presentation, And the other being getting that killer question. There's nothing worse when you're in a flow in a presentation, you're feeling good, it's going good, and then all of a sudden, your mind goes blank and you froze. So we're going to talk about what we can do to fix this. And when you do freeze, when your mind goes completely blank, the key thing you have to do here is create some time for yourself. Because if you can just find, say, 3 or 5 seconds, your mind is most likely going to get back on track. So how do you create time? Well, here's a few different options for you. One thing that you could do is you could take a drink. So as I was saying, and what that does is it helps create a bit of time. You can think about what you're going to say next, and then by the time you put that drink down, you're most likely ready to go. Now, another thing that you could do is you could briefly take a look at your notes. Just a little glance at the bullet points you've got down there to help you get back on track. And of course, finally, what you could do is you could just pause. And even just for a few seconds, it's not going to disrupt too much. It's not going to show that you don't know where you're going next. It's just going to look like you've made a well-placed pause. So those are a few ways that we can deal with freezing. Now for the killer question, that question that just, makes you shudder because you don't know an answer straight away, we can do a couple of things here. One option, and I highly recommend this, is to ask a question back. You could say, could you give me an example, sir? And then he'll expand on what he means, and in that time, you might be able to come up with an answer, and hearing more information might help you come up with an answer as well. The other thing, which you could do, of course, and this is if you really don't know an answer at all, is you could say, I don't know, but I will get back to you as soon as I can. And sometimes just being aware that saying you don't know is an option can help you feel less nervous about those types of questions. The point here is, if we can prepare how we will react when these bad things come up, it makes them less daunting. So what I would do if I was you is I would get a piece of paper, and on one side I would write down your top 5 big fears. Your top 5 big fears of what could go wrong, okay? And then on the other side of the paper, write down your 5 big solutions to those challenges. You'll be surprised, just writing these out helps you feel more confident in terms of how you will handle these situations if they do show up. Prepare how you will react, and you'll remain confident. So there you have it. Focus, emotions, attitude, and reaction. These 4 strategies will help you immensely in calming those nerves before a presentation. So what I'd recommend doing is pick the one which resonates the most with you. You don't have to do all of them, but if you can just try one of them, you're going to start to see the benefits, and it's going to help you feel more confident for that next presentation as well. Now, if you would be interested in doing more training to improve your speaking skills or even your team's speaking skills, I would love to have a call to hear more about your goals. I do team training for organizations where I'll go in and I'll teach your team skills like we've done today, but I'll also give them a chance to practice by delivering short presentations and getting in-depth personal feedback. And I also do one-to-one training for people who have a big presentation coming up or want to improve their skills very quickly. I can create a whole course around what you want to cover, your goals, so that we can tailor things and make sure that you're progressing as much as you possibly can in your speaking. So if that is of any interest, it would be fantastic to have a chat with you. I will have a button below this video. If you click on that, you'll see my schedule for calls. Book in a time that works for you. If there's no times that work, email me at kyle@confidencebydesign.co.uk, and I'm sure we can find a time that would work for both of us. Thank you very much for watching. Choose one of these 4 strategies, and I hope you feel less nervous and more confident for that next presentation.